Under the Committee of the Whole, the Houses of Parliament Bicameral Relations Bill, Senate Bills number 44 of the year 2023 is equally lined up for debates, and the Public Transport Motorcycle Regulation Bill, Senate Bills number 38 of the year 2023. So actually, after the completion of the time allocated for debate of these three bills, the House will then move into division where they'll be voting on the three bills. Remember, this is upon the conclusion of the allocated time for debate on each and every bill. The Political Parties Amendment Bill number 2, Senate Bills number 26 of the year 2024, a bill by the lead of the majority as well as the minority, is another bill lined up for debate this afternoon. And away from that, we expect the House to consider a number of motions. Among them is the consideration of the National Assembly amendments to the Cotton Industry Development Bill, this being Senate Bills number 5 of the year 2023, as well as the consolidation of bursary funds for equitable access to education in Kenya, being a motion by the Senator for Kiambu County. And in this motion, the Senator for Kiambu, Honorable Karungo Dhangwa, wants the Senate to urge the Ministry of Education to audit the funds allocated to bursaries by both the national government and the county governments. Equally, consolidate the funds distributed by various government entities and agencies. This audit is with the aim of directing that these funds...
Honorable Senators, we do have quorum now. Clerk, you may proceed to call the first order, please.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, I'd like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon, a visiting delegation from the County Assembly of Taita Taveta. The delegation consists of members of the Committee on Delegated County Legislation, who are undertaking a benchmarking visit to the Senate. Honorable Senators, I request that each member of the delegation to rise when called so that they may be acknowledged in the Senate tradition. The Honorable Anselm Mwadime, Acting Speaker. The Honorable Gana Mwandao, Minority Party Leader. Honorable Stephen Zai, the Acting Chairperson of Committees. Honorable Joseph Mabishi, Chairperson. Honorable Newton Kifuso, Vice Chairperson. The Honorable Isaac Amatolo, Member of County Assembly. Honorable Lilian Mwangoi, MCA. Honorable Daniel Kimuyu, MCA. Honorable Ajadin, MCA. Mr. Frederick Mabili, Legal Officer. Ms. Zuhura Rehema, Committee Clerk. Mr. Wilfred Musengeti, Hansard Reporter. Mr. John Mwakoro, Sergeant at Arms. Mr. Benjamin Mwashumbe, ICT Officer. Mr. Taman Mwambela, Public Relations Officer. Mr. Kenneth Mucharo, Research Officer. And Mr. Lawrence Mwakisha, Personal Assistant to the Speaker. Now, on behalf of the Senate, on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation and wish them all the best for the remainder of their visit. I will call upon the Senator for Kakamega under 1 minute to extend a word of welcome. The chair is in charge, Senator for Kitui. Senator Boni, you will extend a word of welcome to the delegation, and thereafter, the Senator for Taita Taveta will have his day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to tell the distinguished delegation from Taita Taveta, Mana, quote unquote. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to welcome them on behalf of the institution of the Senate and assure them that they are in a good place this is the citadel of knowledge as far as parliamentary affairs are concerned, and it's our pleasure. I want to confirm to them that all the money that we're supposed to be in the custody of the governor of Taita Taveta, the money has gone. In fact, the schedule of the release of that money is available from the website of the Office of the Control of Budget and the Office of the National Treasury. You're welcome, honorable people.
Senator for Taita Taveta.
Ya, asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa hii fursa umenipa ili kukaribisha kamati ya delegated legislation ya bunge ya Taita Taveta. Walikuja jana na leo nafikiri wataondoka kesho, na wamepata fursa nzuri Mheshimiwa Spika ya kukutana na kamati ya delegated legislation ya Senate. Najua wamejifunza mengi kwa sababu wamekuja kwa safari ya benchmarking. Karibuni sana Senate. Senate na County Assemblies tunafanya kazi sawa ambazo ni uangalizi, kuandika sheria na uwakilishaji. Najua tunapeleka pesa nyingi sana katika counties, na Mheshimiwa Speaker, ugatuzi ndio kitu cha maana sana ambacho tulijipatia wakati wa katiba ya mwaka 2010. Najua wamejifunza mambo mengi kutokana na hii safari yao ya Senate, na najua kirudi watatekeleza. Najua pia kamati ya delegated legislation nao pia wamejifunza mengi, na kama kuna mambo ambayo yatahitaji kutunga sheria zaidi za kulinda magatuzi, najua kamati ya delegated legislation ya Senate watatuelezea. Mheshimiwa Speaker, bunge la kaunti ya Taita Taveta lilikuwa iwe nyumbani ya Senate mashinani huu mwaka. Tulikuwa tunashindana na kaunti ya Busia, lakini najua ile changamoto ambayo ilikuwa pale ilikuwa ni changamoto ya kuwa nafasi ya bunge ya Taita Taveta haikuwa kubwa, lakini nafurahia na acting speaker iko pale ya kwamba kaunti ya Taita Taveta wameanza kujenga bunge lingine, na najua katika siku za usoni wakati tunaangalia kaunti za kwenda, basi Taita Taveta itakuwa ni mojawapo ya kaunti za kupeleka bunge mashinani. Karibuni sana MCAs wa Taita Taveta, na mkirudi nyumbani salimieni watu wa nyumbani. Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Honorable Senators would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon, visiting students from Elgon View College in Kisii County. The delegation comprises 17 students who are in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition. Now, Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcome visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I will call upon the majority leader to, under 1 minute, to extend a word of welcome to the delegation.
Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of my colleagues here in the Senate, welcome the students of Elgon View College in Kisii County. Senator Onyonka was with us early in the morning. I guess he's still trying to make his way back. But as a good neighbor, because Kisii is the immediate county next to us in Kericho, I wish them a good stay here in the Senate. May they find the knowledge and wisdom that they have come to seek in this house, because I know it is present in abundance, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know that we have one of the members of the delegation, though, in the House. I saw Senator Okenyuri Esther in the House. If I have not consumed the full minute, Mr. Speaker, the remainder of the 10 seconds can be given to her to welcome. In any case, between her and Senator Onyonka, she will understand students better, because Senator Onyonka was a student many, many years ago, unlike Esi, who is still a student. I thank you.
Senator Esi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank my senior Senator Aaron Cheriot and our majority leader for donating a few minutes to me. For your information, Mr. Speaker, after my Form 4, I was a student at the Elgon View College pursuing computer systems and application packages for 3 months. as I waited to join university. That time we were waiting for 2 years. So I wish to welcome the students here, be proud of visiting the Senate. Young people have equally an opportunity to ascend to national leadership, and I'm a good example you can borrow from. I wish you the very best as you go back. Say hi to the other students, and I'm very proud of you. Thank you very much.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
The Chairperson, Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, Wednesday, the 20th of November, 2024. This is a report of the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on its consideration of the Sports Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 33 of 2024, and 2, a report of the Standing Committee on Labor on its consideration of the Public Fundraising Appeals Bill, Senate Bill number 36 of 2024. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Statement pursuant to Standing Order 53-1, the Honorable Senator Alexander Mundigi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, request for statement on the welfare of police officers upon transfers on retirement. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to check a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the welfare of police officers during transfers and retirement. In the statement, the committee should 1. State the criteria used by the National Police Service in carrying out transfers of police officers, indicating whether during such exercise they consider family dynamic, specifically the school calendar, with a view to minimizing the disruption of the education of the officers' children. 2. Explain any plans in place to ensure payment of transfers allowances to police officers as provided by for the section 4, 5, and 5 of legal notice number 89 of 2015, particularly where the officers are transferred to stations without staff house. 3. State whether the ministry has any plans to build staff quarters in all sub-counties for police officers to avoid challenges faced by the officers as they carry out their duties. Apprise the Senate of the career progressions of police officers and outline strategies in place to ensure the upward movement of each officer before retirement. And 5. Set any measures the ministry has put in place to offer guidance and counseling to the officers before they retire and to address the challenges faced by the officers after retirement, with particular focus on the possibility of automating their retirement benefit and reviewing their medical covers. Senator Mundigi, Embu County.
Senator Newton.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I raise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding the ban by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development on macadamia nuts to curb the export of immature nuts. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide clarity on the criteria used by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development to issue this directive. 2, state the measures in place to protect farmers from potential losses due to the ban, particularly considering that in most regions, the nuts ripen between April and September, with harvests typically occurring from September to November. 3, present evidence that the State Department for Agriculture consulted in all relevant stakeholders, especially farmers, in making this decision as envisioned by Article 232(1)(d) of the Constitution, including a clear indication of when these consultations took place. And 4, outline the steps taken by both Agriculture and Food Authority, AFA, and the State Department for Agriculture to educate farmers at the county level on proper harvesting and storage practices to ensure the quality of the nuts. Mr. Speaker, I had 2 statements. I don't know whether I should read the second one. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53(1) to request a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding the circumstances that led to the Kenya National Amputee Women's Football team being stranded in Frankfurt, Germany on Tuesday, 12th November 2024 on their way from the World Amputee Football Federation WAF World Cup Games. In the statement, the committee should, 1, outline the logistical and financial arrangements that were put in place by the ministry to ensure the safe travel and accommodation of the Kenya National Amputee Women's Football Team and from Colombia for the inaugural World Amputee Football Federation WAF Women's World Cup. 2, investigate claims that the said team was stranded in Frankfurt, Germany on their way back from the event, explaining whether the ministry has any coordination efforts with other government bodies, such as the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, to assist national teams facing logistical challenges abroad. 3, state any immediate measures the ministry will implement to prevent similar incidents for Kenyan athletes in the future, outlining the strategies in place to ensure that any officials who may have contributed to the unfortunate situation that befell the team are held accountable, and 4, explain specific steps the ministry has taken to support and promote inclusive sports, particularly for teams representing marginalized groups like the amputees football team. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Professor Tom Ojenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on behalf of Senator Professor Tom Ojenda to request for a statement on the devastation caused by a hailstorm in Nyakach sub-county in Kisumu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53(1) to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries regarding the devastation caused by the 40-minute hailstorm that occurred in Nyakach sub-county in Kisumu County on the 25th of October 2024, leading to destruction of both crop and livestock. In the statement, the committee should, number 1, provide details of the total damage caused by the hailstorm that occurred in Nyakach sub-county, Kisumu County on 25th October 2024, indicate where the Kisumu County Disaster and Emergency Management Fund can be utilized to compensate individuals who suffered losses due to the hailstorm, and lastly, outline any measures put in place by the county government to mitigate similar losses and ensure farmers are adequately compensated in the event of such calamities. Senator Professor Tom Ojenda, SC, Senior Counsel, Member of Parliament for Kisumu County.
Senator Joyce Korir.
Mr. Speaker, I stand in for Senator Joyce Korir, and I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53(1) to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Lands, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the application of measures to nurture trees planted across the country on the basis that nurturing newly planted trees to maturity helps to enable the delivery of the targeted 15 billion trees in Kenya by 2032. In the statement, the committee should, 1, highlight the measures in place to ensure growth to maturity of trees planted under the nationwide trees planting program and achieve 100% survival. 2, detail the figures of the number of trees planted in the past year in contrast with the figures of the number of trees that have survived and are growing. 3, state the measures taken to ensure that trees planted in areas within the country experiencing unreliable and insufficient rainfall are nurtured to maturity. 4, detail the actions taken to ensure trees grown in the past that have died off are replanted. 5, detail the measures taken to ensure that members of the public are well informed on the kind of species of trees that should be planted in the different regions within Kenya based on variances in weather conditions. And 6, explain what has been done to ensure that the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry and members of the public maximize rainy seasons to plant trees. I thank you.
Senator Karen Nyamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the rising cases of insecurity in Eastleigh in Nairobi County. Mr. Speaker, security is a critical component of the national political and development agenda. Crime and violence are increasingly recognized as significant development challenges, particularly in urban areas. Incidents of crime, robbery, gang violence, and gender-based domestic violence undermine both macroeconomic and microeconomic growth, hinder productivity, and negatively affect societal and individual well-being. In recent weeks, several incidents of crime have been reported in the area, but my attention has been drawn to the most recent case, a viral CCTV footage capturing the moment when a young man identified as Abdirahim Ibrahim was shot and killed by an unknown assailant early Saturday morning on 10th November this year. In the statement, the committee should conduct an inquiry into the rise in insecurity within Nairobi County, particularly in Eastleigh, and assess any emerging patterns that may help identify the root causes behind these criminal activities. 2, outline the measures in place to address the rising crime rates in Eastleigh and ensure that residents' rights, as guaranteed in the Bill of Rights in the Constitution of Kenya, are upheld. 3, describe the measures taken by the Directorate of Criminal Investigation and other law enforcement agencies to investigate the murder of Abdirahim and bring the responsible individuals to justice. And finally, outline any plans by the State Department for Internal Security and National Administration to ensure transparency, accountability in the handling of murder cases, and detail the steps taken to strengthen the criminal justice system to ensure that perpetrators are held accountable under the law. Signed, Senator Karen Nyamu, MP, nominated senator. Thank you, sir.
The honorable senators will allow a limited intervention to a maximum of 15 minutes. Each senator speaking for 3 minutes. Senator Olekina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute on the statement by Senator Mundiki on the welfare of police officers upon transfer or retirement. Mr. Speaker, let me appreciate the distinguished senator for actually bringing something which is important. Mr. Speaker, in the statement, when the Committee on Security and Defense are going to be looking at it, it is important for the public to be made aware whether when an officer, police officer, is transferred to Turkana or transferred to Tana River or West Pokot, is normally as a result of either indiscipline or they are being punished for a particular reason, because abruptly it just happened and it affects really the social setup. I am aware of a situation where a young officer who has got a young kid, 3 months old, and the wife is breastfeeding, where he was transferred, and I had to intervene to it. So it's imperative that at least we defend these people, and we are made aware of the procedure which is taken. One other issue that, Mr. Speaker, is important is really on the promotion of these officers. Recently, I met a traffic officer who told me that he's been in the lower cadre, not corporal, but the other one, which is constable, for the last 27 years. He's been working as a constable for the last 27 years as a police officer. This gentleman is from Korea. And I just feel like it is imperative for us to know, if you really sit in one position, if we sit in this position, if I sit in this position for 20 years, I would have stagnated. So it is, you know, there's no growth whatsoever. So in the statement, I want to plead with the committee to be able to give us information on what criteria is used to promote police officers from constable, corporal, sergeant, chief. Is it based on academic or what? Finally, this issue of transfer, Mr. Speaker, is important. And I think before an officer is transferred, he should be given an opportunity to be told why they are being transferred. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Morango.
Asante sana Mstahiki Spika. Ningetaka kuongea dakika moja kuhusu taarifa ambayo imeulizwa na Senator Mondege na pia Senator Nyoto. Ya kwanza, polisi ni muhimu sana katika nchi hii. Ingawa watu wengi wanalalamika na ingawa pia nyuki yapigwi mbusu, nadhani polisi ni watu. Mstahiki Spika, ukiangalia sana polisi ambao wanatolewa kutoka mahali pamoja kupelekwa pengine, wako na familia ambazo zinavunjika. Polisi anapochukua pesa ama mtaji na kuwekesha katika ujenzi wa nyumba mahali pamoja, halafu anatolewa anapelekwa mahali pengine ambapo anafaa kulipa kondi, inakuanga ni gharama ya ziada ambayo polisi wengi wameshindwa kuweza kukimu, na mara nyingi ndio maana unaona kwamba polisi wengi wanaingiwa na matatizo ya kiakili. Mstahiki Spika, nadhani hilo ni jambo la maana sana. Iangaliwe polisi wanapotolewa katika sehemu moja kupelekwa nyingine, waangaliwe kwamba mahali wanapopelekwa wamepelekwa na wanaridhika na wamepewa pia kama ni ridhaa ili waweze kukaa mahali pale. Jambo la pili ni kuhusu taarifa iliyoulizwa na Senator wa Murang'a. Mstahiki Spika, katika kikao ambacho kilisha katika kamati ya ukulima, uvuvi na uchumi samahati ambao mimi ni mwenyekiti, tulikaa na waziri na kumwambia kwamba hakukuwa na haja ya kuja angeongeza makataa ili makandamia iweze kuuzwa katika nchi za ng'ambo. Lakini mpaka saa hii wakati makataa iliisha katika tarehe 2 mwezi Novemba, hakuna jambo ambalo limefanyika kwa sasa. Mstahiki Spika, wakulima wanafaa ruhusiwe kila mkulima afuge mbuzi wake mahali anaona kuna nyasi. Hii sheria nyingi ambazo zimekuwa zikija, nyingi zinakuja kuandaa na kuwa zinawakandamiza wakulima. Mstahiki Spika, mazao mengi sana katika nchi hii haina sheria. Kama vile utapata wenye wanalima mahindi hayana sheria, kama ni maziwa hakuna sheria, lakini wakulima wa korosho, makandamia na bigza unapata kuna sheria ambazo ni gandamizi ambayo inawazuia wale wakulima kuweza kuuza mazao yao. Asante sana Mstahiki Spika.
Senator Beatrice Ogoda.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you for the chance to say something about and support the noble statement by State Senator of Embu, Senator Mundigi. Honorable Speaker, A number of times we blame police officers for the so many things that are not done rightly, Honorable Speaker. But do we stop to consider the kind of services that police officers equally give us? That because of police officers, Honorable Speaker, we are able to sleep comfortably because we know there's somebody that is ensuring that we are secure. Honorable Speaker, as I support the fact that transfers are administrative and every region of this country deserves the service of police officers, Honorable Speaker, the transfer must be done with some human face. Part of the consideration that is made for all public officers is the situation of their families, that includes their spouses and their children. But Honorable Speaker, we must also, the police service must also attend to other benefits of police officers that are not only limited to their allowances, but their staffing must be looked at. Honorable Speaker, we must also look at the general well-being of police officers, the mental illness activities that must be initiated to take care of the police officers. But above all, Honorable Speaker, the medical cover of police officers, the staffing of police officers, the upgrading of the officers based on their levels of education, Honorable Speaker, must be taken care of. I support.
Senator Fernandez, Senator Cheranke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I want to support the statement on the issue of police welfare. Mr. Speaker, you know police work is sweet and sour like Chinese dish, Mr. Speaker, because being a police officer is giving up yourself for the peace and security of the country, while also you must sacrifice a lot for the country. Mr. Speaker, the issue of medical cover, the issue of mental illness, Mr. Speaker, the workstations of police stations is very deplorable, Mr. Speaker. Personally, having slept over 30 police stations across the country, there is nothing to write home about, Mr. Speaker. As the reggae song says, there is nothing to smile about, Mr. Speaker. I can tell you even where occurrence book is, even the toilets that they use, Mr. Speaker, the last time that the painting of police station by even paint is very deplorable, Mr. Speaker. So I want to ask the National Security Committee to look into this welfare of police, including, I'm happy the Maraka report, Mr. Speaker, recommended the issue of salaries and personal emoluments. Mr. Speaker, we must look at it. Even the housing, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, we must also ask the national government to include the police in affordable housing program. Because sometimes when police officers are enjoying the conjugal rights, in the next room they are separated by bed sheet, other is single, Mr. Speaker. And by the end of the day, if you are not careful, you will be encouraging more of police uncomfortability and abuse to their privacy, Mr. Speaker. So I support the police welfare must be looked at. Let us cap 3 years. When a police stays more than 3 years, Mr. Speaker, then they can be transferred. There are many police officers who have stayed beyond 3 years, and yet they are to be transferred. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Wafula.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika, langu ni kuchangia hoja kuhusu makadamia na mimea ambayo hutoa mafuta, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi nataraji kwamba serikali kabla haijaamua ama kukata kauli kuhusiana na mmea wowote katika nchi ya Kenya, lazima washikadau wote wahusishwe katika mchakato mzima, Mheshimiwa Spika. Haiwezekani kwamba waziri ama viongozi katika wizara wataamka asubuhi na mapema kupitisha sheria ambayo inamgandamiza mkulima wa makadamia katika nchi ya Kenya. Haiwezi kuwa wanakata kauli kuboresha pesa ambazo mabwenyenye wanapata kuliko kuangalia hali ya maisha ya mkulima wa makadamia katika nchi ya Kenya. Sasa mimi na mwenzangu mwenyekiti wa kamati ya uchumi samawati, hivi karibuni tutamkaribisha Mheshimiwa Waziri kuweka bayana kile kilichosababisha wao kuwanyima wapandaji ama wakulima wa makadamia nafasi ya kupata kipato kwa jasho lao. Mheshimiwa Spika, changamoto nyingine ambayo ipo katika wizara hii ni wakulima wa ngano. Haiwezekani wapewe kibali mabwenyenye kuagiza ngano kutoka nchi ya nje, na wakulima wa ngano katika bonde la Ufa na pembe mbalimbali za nchi ya Kenya wako na ngano katika magala yao. Hii ni hali ambayo sisi kama maseneta hatuwezi kubali. Lazima serikali iweke Wakenya wakulima mbele pasipo kuweka kiu cha pesa kwa njia ya mkato. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Chute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to contribute on the statement by Senator Mundigi and Senator Nyamu. Honorable Speaker, I went to a place called Ilret in Northern sub-county of Marsabit County. I went to the police station there. If you look at the way those police officers live, it is like a house that was meant for horses and donkeys, Honorable Speaker. It is, they live, you know, sometimes I even wonder, why are they being subjected to that kind of a situation? Honorable Speaker, if you go to Industrial Police Station today, you will find two families sharing one room, triangular mabati room. It's called uniport, even not even uniport. It is even smaller than uniport. How do they subject police officers with families? Imagine with a curtain in between only. Just imagine, Honorable Speaker, your wife and the other police officer has his wife. There is only a curtain in between. How do they even manage? I really don't understand, Honorable Speaker. I don't understand. This is terrible. Honorable Speaker, you know, sometimes people condemn police officers, and I feel pity for them, honestly. You can find a police officer standing in a heavy rain controlling traffic. And then you say, ati wanachukua kitu kidogo. What do you mean by kitu kidogo? You know, yes. So finally, and the issue of
Order, Senator
the statement by Senator Nyamu, the young man who was killed comes from Marsabit, and I would ask the police officers to do a thorough investigation and arrest the culprits as soon as possible. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Bass.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to also support the statement from Dr. Mudik. Honorable Speaker, actually, the police officers in this country live in a pathetic situation. Poorly paid, poorly housed, most frustrated profession. Police officers are supposed to be living the best in this country because they do protect all our lives and our security. Honorable Speaker, as he rightly said, some of these officers are living in the uniposts that was left by the Zungus. If you go to Nairobi in some of these areas, you'll be surprised. You can't imagine how they're living. One of the things, Honorable Speaker, transfers are so regular. If you just disagree with your next immediate boss, then they're taken away to Turkana. Well, they have nobody to argue for them. They have no lawyers. Other thing, Honorable Speaker, many police officers are now frustrated and even committing suicide. Young men, graduates, poorly paid, they stay away from their families for many months because somebody in Turkana and the next day, his family is somewhere in Wajir or Mandera. So as a result of this, many of them are now become mentally and depressed. And therefore, I support the statement that we must look into the condition of the police officers. Thank you so much.
Senator Oroba Gloria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to contribute on the statement on the welfare of police officers. Mr. Speaker, without belaboring the point, the Maraga Task Force put out a report, and that report has been filed. Mr. Speaker, this country, we are so used to writing things, reports, going for conferences, workshops, drinking tea, taking photos. Mr. Speaker, what we should be discussing is how far is the implementation of that report? Because on that report, it touches on the social welfare, housing, everything that we're talking about today in this Senate, Mr. Speaker. I have heard Senator Chute talking about housing and how two families are split by a curtain, Mr. Speaker. If you look at all the suicide and all this gender-based violence within the police force, whether it is their spouses or the actual police officers, Mr. Speaker, it is rooted. It is rooted in these conditions that we are subjecting them. And it pains me every time when I go on social media and people are just busy writing there,
these police officers, these police officers that, yet when we come here, we are talking about the insecurity in Isili. Who do you expect is going to make sure that you are safe? It is those same police officers that you keep attacking, Mr. Speaker. So at one point, it is not only the material things, but even the mental health of these police officers. We have to ask ourselves as a society in this country, if we are constantly attacking the people who are supposed to offer us safety, how are we expecting those same people are going to make sure that we are safe in our houses, Mr. Speaker? So I want to support this statement and push that we are informed about the Maraga task force and the implementation of that particular report that was released. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Karen Nyamu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to support the statement by Senator from Murang'a, Senator Joe Nyutu, on the amputee football team from Kenya that was stranded in Frankfurt, Germany, Mr. Speaker. I saw the images on social media, Mr. Speaker, and I could not believe that the team that we should be so proud of and support was actually stranded and was being helped by well-wishers in Frankfurt, Germany. And I was wondering, under what program did they travel? Wasn't there facilitation for accommodation and for all those expenses that they needed over there, Mr. Speaker? I can imagine the preparation that they went through here in the country so that they can qualify for that, you know, to be able to qualify on the world stage. And then instead of us appreciating them and honoring them, we neglect them. Is it because of their physical situation, or what is the ministry doing? You see, we keep saying we have the interest of the young people at heart and our sports people. But the grim image that we paint, even for the ones who would want to engage themselves in sports, is very discouraging, Mr. Speaker. On the statement by Mundigi on police welfare, the Maraga report exposed all this rot that we're talking about, on the promotions, on the corruption, deep-rooted in the police system. We want to know the steps, and I happen to chair the Committee for National Security in the Senate, Mr. Speaker. Vice Chair, I happen to be the Vice Chair. That is my vision. I'm sorry I spoke about my vision. I am patient. Slowly, we will get there. So I happen to sit in that committee, and I am keen. I am very
Order,
keen.
honorable senators. May Senator Karen be heard in silence, please. Proceed, Senator.
I will be very keen to know the steps that we're taking to ensure that we prioritize resources to ensure that we actually implement that report step by step. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Miraj.
Asante Bwana Spika, na mimi nipende kuchangia hoja ama statement iliyoletwa na Seneta Mundigi wa Embu. Kwa hakika ni jambo la kutamausha kuona kwamba hali za maisha na mazingira ya maaskari wetu ni ya kusikitisha sana na liko katika hali mbaya. Bwana Spika, tukiregea nyuma tunaona kwamba tumekuwa na ruwaza nzuri. Nimeona maseneta wengi na nimewasikia wakizungumzia mazingira wanayoishi maaskari wetu, lakini wanasahau ruwaza ambayo rais wetu William Samoei Ruto alikuwa nayo wakati wa campaign na ambayo inaendelea kuwa implemented. Bwana Spika, masuala ya nyumba za bei nafuu ambazo pia zinatengezwa kwa minajili ya kuwapa mahali pazuri maaskari wetu ili waweze kupata mahali pazuri pa kuweza kuishi na familia zao na mahali kwenye hadhi nzuri. Bwana Spika, pia nikichangia statement ya Senator Nyutu kuhusu ile timu ya wale amputee ambao waliweza kujitayarisha na kuweza kupata fursa ya kuwakilisha taifa. Ni jambo la kusikitisha kuona kwamba hawakuwekewa matayarisho kabambe ya kuweza kuliwakilisha taifa letu. Kwa hivyo hata mimi ningependa kujua ni mikakati gani inaweza kufanyika kupitia wizara ili kuboresha wao kuweza kufanikiwa katika mashindano yale. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator S.C. Okenyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also wish to comment on two statements, one by Senator Alexander Mudigi, by actually saying that as a society we need to value the sacrifice and work being offered by our security officers. And it's not just about protecting us, it's also about their welfare. Because if you also look at the cases of police officers who are committing suicide or killing their colleagues is on the upper side. So we need to look at all round how a police officer should be staying. And on Senator Joyce's statement on tree planting, this is a very critical assignment for this administration. And I think a serious assessment needs to be looked at so that we are not just placing emphasis on tree planting on that only occasion when we are planting trees. This needs to be ensured that students are also doing the same. Now that we have students closing schools, are we going to wait for students to come back so that they can take part in such a critical activity? We need to take a stock on the trees that have been planted. What progress is it that we are having? Have the trees dried up? Who is taking care of the trees? So generally, as Kenyan citizens, we need to have that culture within us so that we don't just do that on the tree planting day. So this is a very critical statement which needs to be addressed effectively. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honorable senators, we have spent the maximum 15 minutes allowed under standing orders, and therefore we will move to the statement pursuant to Standing Order 57-1. The Senate Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 57-1 to hereby present the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, the 26th of November, 2024. Ordinarily, Mr. Speaker, this statement is presented every Thursday, but as members are aware, you communicated to the House yesterday that we have the State of the Nation address tomorrow, where the President will be addressing both houses of Parliament at the National Assembly chamber. It therefore follows that this is our last day of sitting in this chamber for this week. Therefore, it's important to brief the House on the business for the coming week. The status of the legislative business, Mr. Speaker, is as follows. We have 54 bills that are pending conclusion, of which 36 are the second reading stage, 17 are the committee of the whole stage, and 1 bill is awaiting first reading. There are 30 motions that are pending conclusion. There are 26 petitions that are pending conclusion before the committees, of which 19 are actually due for reporting by the respective standing committees. 433 statements pursuant to Standing Order number 53-1. From the foregoing, it is evident that we need to redouble our efforts to conclude the business of the Senate before the Senate. However, I want to thank Honorable Senators, Mr. Speaker, for the divisions that were undertaken yesterday. The mediated version of the Water Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2023, and the National Rating Bill, National Assembly Bills number 55 of 2022, are being finalized for presentations to His Excellency the President for assent, while there's a resolution on the motion relating to various water service providers will shortly be dispatched to the relevant government agencies for action. Mr. Speaker, sir, the other bills that were at the second reading stage have now been transitioned to the Committee of the Whole and will be scheduled accordingly by the SBC. In the same spirit, I want to urge honorable senators to be present in the House so that we can conclude the business that is scheduled for division in today's order paper. On Tuesday, the 26th of November, Mr. Speaker, sir, the SBC will consider the business for the week. The tentative business for that week will include a motion to debate the President's address, to Parliament pursuant to Article 132, 1B and C of the Constitution. Business not concluded from today's order paper, as well as business indicated in the notice paper. The tentative business for the morning sitting on Wednesday, 27 November 2024, will include the schedule of questions to the Cabinet Secretaries as provided by the SPC, as well as motions. As senators will recall, the Cabinet Secretaries who are scheduled to respond to questions on Wednesday, the 13th of November 2024, did not appear. For this reason, SPC committee resolved to reschedule these questions for Wednesday, the 27th, 2024. These are including questions to the Cabinet Secretaries for Health and Tourism and Wildlife. The business for the afternoon on Wednesday, 27 November, will include business not concluded in the order paper for Tuesday, 26th November, and will be the following. There are these bills, Mr. Speaker, which are the committee of the whole stage: the Street Vendors Protection of Livelihoods Bill, Local Content Bill, Early Childhood Education Amendment Bill, the Land Amendment Bill, Energy Amendment Bill, National Disaster Risk Management, Cooperative Societies Amendment Bill, County Governments Election Laws, the County Public Finance Laws, Election Amendment Laws, Mr. Speaker, and various statements, various bills that are at the second reading stage, which include the Heritage and Museums Bill, the County Hall of Fame Bill, Public Holidays Bill, County Assembly Services Bill, Wildlife Conservation, the Wildlife Conservation and Management Bill, the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substance Amendment Bill, County Oversight and Accountability Bill, Civic Education Bill, County Statistics Bill, Statutory Instruments Bill, County Wards Equitable Development Bill, PFM Amendment Bill, the Creative Economy Support Bill, Livestock Protection and Sustainability Bill, the Sports Amendment Bill, County Governments Procedure Bill, the County Governments Amendment Bill, the County Library Services Bill, the Labor and Migration Services Bill, the Sports Amendment Bill. Mr. Speaker, though I don't have it in my statement, I think I have it in good authority of the chair, and there are members who are part of the Division of Revenue Mediation Committee that they have since concluded that exercise. Senator Faki confirms, who's a member of that committee, and therefore it will be important to notify the country that we will prioritize that business on Tuesday next week so that we can conclude on it. And with leave of the House and your permission, Mr. Speaker, we may even want to conclude both second and third reading actually on Tuesday. Mr. Speaker, given how much the country has been awaiting this decision. I've just seen a message on my phone here, Mr. Speaker, before rising to read this statement from one of the county governors informing me that they actually wish to know how long it will take, because many of them would wish to plan either for supplementary budgets and the like. And it's difficult for counties to make that decision, Mr. Speaker, before they eventually know what is the indicative figure that they are likely to get. Mr. Speaker, I know that by practice, the minute this mediation committee tabled their report, even before the passage of CARA, which is a subsequent to that bill, county assemblies will have a rough idea of what to expect and how to plan their finances accordingly. I know it has taken long, but I'm glad that finally, Mr. Speaker, this mediation exercise has been brought to an end, and counties can plan actually for the remainder of the financial year with a good mind. It is my hope, Mr. Speaker, that members of Budget and Finance Committee will immediately commence also on the CARA immediately after we are done with Division of Revenue, so that hopefully before we break for recess on the, I think on the 4th of December, Mr. Speaker, we conclude on both bills. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, how shall we appear before our electorate if we go before them half the year down the line without the instruments needed to run and operate the fiscal policies of our county governments? Therefore, I want to urge members of the Budget and Finance, like Senator Faki, the whip here, and the chairperson, and the vice, that they have their plate full. And if the House, our whips, Mr. Speaker, can rally the members of the House actually to be present for conclusion of those extremely critical business for the functioning of our county governments, Mr. Speaker, it'll be important. Mr. Speaker, I register my appreciation for the business that we were able to transact yesterday. We actually legislated for, I think, almost a record 4 hours yesterday, Mr. Speaker. Beyond speaking, members of the public need to understand that lawmaking is a process. And yesterday we were actually in it from about 3 o'clock all the way to 6:30. doing various stages and various amendments, Mr. Speaker. We have a similar agenda later this afternoon, should we conclude on some of the bills that are before us. It's unfortunate we don't have the requisite number to conclude on the vote, but that does not stop us from proceeding with the legislative work subject to only division. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and hereby lay the statement on the table of the Senate. Thank you.
Okay, before I request the clerk to call the next order, I have this communication to make. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting Kenyatta University Student Association, KUSA, 20th Congress members. The delegation comprises 74 students who are in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition. Now, Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcome visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I will allow the Senator for Nairobi City, under 1 minute, to extend a word of welcome to the delegation.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. I can already hear objections from behind me because apparently there are alumni of KU seated behind me. But I want to challenge them that they should move closer to the Speaker, as I have done, so that it is easy for you to catch their eye, or for them to catch your eye, so that they can also be welcoming delegations. And I'm sure they can trust me with just welcoming students from KU, even if I didn't go to KU. And in fact, as I speak, Honorable Speaker, I want them to confirm if any of them have received an invitation from the delegation from KU to meet with the students outside, because I have received it here. I am sure they haven't received it. And there's a reason why those students are insisting on meeting the Senator of Nairobi. Because, you know, sometimes senators from, I don't want to say the county, but Honorable Speaker, let me just do what you have asked me to do, to welcome the students from Kenyatta University Students Association, to wish them a fruitful visit at Parliament. Today is a good day to visit. Unfortunately, in the morning, as the Majority Leader has alluded to, there was a bit of a stalemate with the question of division of revenue, but as I said, we have reached some sort of way forward, which we will be trying to persuade our colleagues in the House to support, given what we saw there. I know that the whip is looking at me with a very stern look, because he might not be very happy with what we have to report. But we will be looking to persuade Olekina. I want to assure the students from KU that despite how Olekina looks like, his demeanor, he's an amiable fella, and you can actually have conversations with him and convince him on a few things, including the division of revenue. So I wish the students well. I heard that they are in the student leadership. Many here started their politics in student leadership, and I hope that they can learn something here. Unfortunately, I wouldn't advise them to follow in the footsteps of Senator Khalwale, but he says that he's a former student leader, and they can see that they are here. So we hope that this will be a learning opportunity for them, and I want to guarantee them that the Senator of Nairobi is available for you to just shake hands and take photos and exchange ideas outside there. And those who are shouting, Honorable Speaker, should join me out there, so that there are certain responsibilities that come with welcoming delegations here, so that you are not just shouting here, but when the rubber meets the road, you behave like the Senator of Nairobi. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Kajwang, you may also extend a word of welcome.
Yes,
and assume the responsibility. And assume the responsibilities.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. I'm an alumni of Moi University, just like the Majority Leader. But Moi University, during its days of glory, when it was the second university, just before Kenyatta University was established. But Mr. Speaker, these are student leaders, and I want to encourage them. I was also a student leader. I was the Secretary General of the Moi University Students Organization. I want to encourage the leaders that they need to build a profile that looks at Kenya as a nation. We were with the Majority Leader at Moi University recently, and we addressed Akamkunji. And we encouraged the students to desist from these district associations. these associations of Nandi Students Association, Homa Bay Student Association, what we lack in this country is patriotism and a nationalist approach to issues. And I want to encourage the students, and I know that they've just gone through their elections. Build a nation, build union, build unity amongst the students of Kenyatta University. Mr. Speaker, we saw in the news that these students sitting in the gallery might not sit exams because their lecturers are on strike. I want to encourage the chair of the education committee, my vice captain in athletics, and I know he's able, and I know he's capable, and I know he's no longer fearful. You can no longer sell fear to him. Please call the minister in charge of education, sit down with him and the vice chancellors of our public universities. We have a serious crisis brewing in our education sector. Mr. Speaker, Moi University, the university we went to, is collapsing. Very soon, Mr. Speaker, you're going to have a problem with Senator Aaron and I, because if you try to establish the university we went to, you might find it does not exist. I don't know what that will mean for our academic qualifications. At Kenyatta University, there's a problem. At Machakos University, there's a problem. At Jomo Kenyatta University, there's a problem. Yesterday, lecturers came to Parliament to present petitions. Mr. Speaker, for the sake of the leaders who have come from Kenyatta University, let this House, before we go on recess, find a day, do an adjournment motion so that we can discuss the crisis in the education sector, not confined to the universities, but even in primary school and secondary school. Mr. Speaker, we must press the government. We must come here in the same numbers that we came in on the impeachment day to press the government to prioritize the most important social sector, which is education. And I want to assure the students from KU that this House is up to the task, and the chair of the education committee is up to the task. And Chairman Joe Newtu, when you call the VCs, if you need some firepower, you can call some of us like Senator Sifuna and the others, so that we can put the VCs online for the sake of our boys and girls at the universities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I welcome the delegation.
Thank you. Now, honorable senators, for the convenience of the House, I will rearrange today the sequence of today's order paper pursuant to Standing Order 45-2. We will instead handle order number 15. Thereafter, we'll resume normal flow as contained in the order paper of the day. Clerk, proceed to call that order.
Order number 15, the Public Fundraising Appeals Bill, Senate Bills number 36 of 2024. Second reading.
The Majority Leader. Now, honorable senators, we had started debate on this bill, and at the interruption of debate, Senator Karungo was actually had the floor, and I'm not seeing Senator Karungo today. Therefore, the floor is open for debate. Senator James Mrango, you had already contributed to this bill. Senator Joe Newtu, you may proceed. The Public Fundraising Appeals Bill. Senator Joe, if you need time to organize your thoughts, Senator Wakoli, you want to organize your thoughts? That's okay. Senator Mundigi.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa ruhusa niweze kuchangia mjadala ambaye itakuwako wakati wa siasa. Bwana Spika, mimi naomba kupinga kwa sababu najua katika Kenya kila kitu iko katika demokrasia. Wakati tutapitisha mjadala hii italeta shinda katika Kenya kwa sababu kuna matajiri na masikini, na pia tunajua kuna mjadala ambaye tulipitisha kila mmoja anang'ang'ania kiti ya umbunge ama kiti ya MCA ama kiti ya senator, yoyote anaweza kusimama. Na wakati tunapitisha mjadala kama huu italeta shinda kwa sababu itafanya ukute hata watu wengine wamegojeka na watu wengine watapata njia ya kusimamisha kama kuna mambo ya magonjwa, kwa sababu wengine wako na pesa na wengine watakuwa na pesa. Kwa hivyo mimi napinga mjadala ambaye ya kupitisha vile watu watakuwa naomba parua wakati wa kuchangisha pesa. Ningeomba kwa sababu nchi ya Kenya ni nchi ya demokrasia, tuwe na uhuru wa kila kitu. Upande wa siasa ambaye atakuwa na pesa atajua vile ataomba pesa yake kwa wale wako na pesa, na yule anataka kuchangiwa atajua vile atafanya, tuweze kusaidia mwananchi wa Kenya, kwa sababu tunajua mambo ya kisiasa sio mambo ambaye hatuna umbaya na mtu yoyote, aidha ako na pesa ana pesa, iwe ni kitu ambaye iko na uhuru. Kwa hivyo mimi napinga mjadala ya mambo ya kupitisha vile mtu anafaa apate parua ndio aweze kufanya harambee. Asante Bwana Spika.
You may proceed, Senator Newt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a report of the Standing Committee on Education on a petition to the Senate regarding the Discrimination by Teachers Service Commission, TSC, on payment of hardship and enhanced house allowances.
Now, Senator Newt.
Yes.
We are debating the bill. We are debating the bill. So I called you to debate, to contribute to the bill.
This same bill. Oh, sorry.
Now, honorable senators, for clarity, we are now handling order number 15, which is the Public Fundraising Appeals Bill, which is now on the floor for debate. Senator Mungatana.
Bwana Spika, napenda kuchukua nafasi hii kwanza kukupatia asante kwa kunipa nafasi na mimi kutoa maoni yangu kuhusu mjadala ambao unahusika mambo ya harambee. Harambee katika Kenya, Bwana Spika, zimekuwa na shida. Katika historia ya Kenya, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta aliweza kuweka Wakenya wote pamoja kwa mwito wa harambee. Na harambee, Bwana Spika, ni jina ambalo liko na msingi wa Kihindi ambayo inasema ni kuvuta pamoja. Na ukweli wa mambo ni kwamba hili lilikuwa ni wazo zuri na limesaidia watu wengi katika Kenya hii. Shida imekuja kwamba kuna wengine ambao wametumia nafasi hiyo vibaya. Na ni kweli kabisa kuna watu ambao wametumia harambee vibaya. Tunasikia kwa mfano, wewe ni mheshimiwa ama ni kiongozi wa tabaka fulani, umeenda mahali kuomba Mwenyezi Mungu na haukuenda kwa mambo ya harambee, lakini hapo hapo watu wanajipanga, mara mnaanza kuambiwa kuna shida hii, kuna shida hii, kuna shida hii. Kwa hivyo mheshimiwa ama mtu fulani ukiwa unaondoka ujue kuna haya. Kwa hivyo ni kweli kabisa kwamba kuna watu ambao wamekuwa wakitumia nafasi hii na harambee hizi kutekeleza mambo ambayo sio ya kisawa, mambo mabaya. Na saa ingine pia, Bwana Spika, tumekwisha kusikia kwamba tunafanya harambee alafu pesa hizo hazitumiki kwa ile mpangilio ambayo harambee hiyo ilifanywa, ama pengine harambee inafanyika na watu waliokusanya ile pesa hawajui ni pesa ngapi kamili ilipatikana, na hiyo pesa itatumika namna gani kwa harambee ambayo imepangwa. Na Bwana Spika, pia unajua kwamba watu wamekuja kuielewa harambee kwamba ni namna fulani ya kusukuma mawazo ya watu kuelekea pale pengine ambapo unataka. Na sheria hii ama mswada huu unasema kwamba viongozi ambao wako mamlakani tabaka fulani fulani wasifanye harambee. Mimi Bwana Spika, nimeangalia huu mswada na nimeangalia watu wetu wa Tana River, na nitasema ya kwamba kwetu sisi Tana River, watu wetu ambao wanatuita harambee wanatuita kwa sababu ya shida. Kwa hivyo wewe kama ni kiongozi, na si lazima uwe ni mheshimiwa, kuna watu ambao ni walimu, kuna watu ambao ni madaktari, kuna wafanyi biashara mashuhuri ambao pengine Mwenyezi Mungu amewafungulia neema zake. Sasa watu wakiwa na shida, mtu amepata ajali, mtoto yuko hospitali, bibi yuko hospitali, ama pengine ni ugonjwa, watu hawana bima na wamezoea ya kwamba kifo kikikupata, Mheshimiwa Bwana Spika, unatafuta familia yako wanaona kwamba hiyo pesa ambao wamekusanya haitoshi, na mazishi yako bei ghali, kwa sababu lazima watu wale, mwili utolewe kutoka mochari uletwe, watu walale usiku. Kikwetu watu wanaimba nyimbo usiku mzima, alafu asubuhi ndio watu wanaenda kuzika pale kanisani. Sasa Bwana Spika, ukiniambia mimi kama senator wa Tana River ya kwamba leo nipige kura ama nizungumzie mswada ambao unasema mimi nisaidie watu wangu, Bwana Spika, siwezi kubaliana na wewe kabisa. Na ninaomba Senate, bunge letu hili, na bunge na wabunge wenzangu katika bunge la Senate, tuache mambo yawe open, yawe wazi. Ikiwa wewe unaona kwamba hutaki kufanya harambee, basi usifanye harambee. Ikiwa wewe unaona kwamba harambee ile mtu amekufa na watu wana shida pale na unaweza kusaidia, wasaidie. Unaweza kufanya harambee ya wagonjwa, wasaidie. Watoto wamekwama shule, basari ndio hizi, Mheshimiwa Bwana Spika, hazipatikani. Watoto wengine wanaambiwa mpaka uende uripoti kwanza ndio utapata basari. Tafadhali, kama mtu amepata nafasi na Mwenyezi Mungu amembariki, hata kama ni kwa kidogo, yeye ni mwalimu mkuu mahali, yeye ni mfanyi biashara mahali, yeye ni DO mahali, ni DC mahali, ama yeye ni mjumbe wa county, yeye ni mjumbe wa Senate, yeye ni mjumbe wa bunge la National Assembly, ama ni waziri, ama ni nini, kwa nini tuwafungie baraka zao? Sisi tunafundishwa katika Biblia, Bwana Spika, ya kwamba mtu anayetoa anabarikiwa. Kwa hivyo kama kuna nafasi ya kupata baraka zile za Mwenyezi Mungu, kwa nini tusizipate? Mimi nilikuwa naomba sana Bwana Spika, tusipitishe sheria ambazo ziko kinyume na matakwa ya wananchi wetu. Wananchi wetu kule mashambani, mimi sijui hapa town, pengine hapa town watu wana pesa, pengine hawataki wao kufanya maharambee, lakini sisi we live with these things. Bwana Spika, tunaishi na hizi shida, na wajumbe wetu wa makaunti kule wanasema, Mheshimiwa nisaidie, nimezidiwa. Sasa kama mjumbe wa kaunti anakuambia umsaidie, alafu unakataa, Mheshimiwa Bwana Spika, ati tumepitisha sheria hii, sheria Bwana Spika, wananchi hawataikubali, kwa sababu wananchi ndio wanatuambia tuwasaidie, na si kitu ya uongo ama ujanja. nyumba nyingi, wale ambao tunaenda katika counties zetu, nyumba nyingi watu wako na shida, kuna shida, watu hata chakula hawana. Alafu umeenda kutafuta chakula huko, umepigwa na nyati, ama umeumwa na mamba huko mtoni. Alafu mtu anakuambia ati sasa kuna sheria inasema huwezi kwenda kwa MCA wako umuombe msaada, huwezi kwenda kwa MP wako umuombe msaada, ama yule ambaye ameandikwa walimu hapo umuombe msaada, ama yule. Mheshimiwa Bwana Spika, mimi hii sheria sioni kama itatusaidia na haisemi mambo ya wananchi. Na nataka kueleza namna hii. Bwana Spika, kuna sheria ambazo tumepitisha hapa Kenya ambazo baadaye tumekuja kujuta. Na kuna sheria ambazo zinasukumwa na watu fulani kama NGOs. Wanasukuma sheria fulani ati tufanye hivi, ndivyo dunia inavyoenda na nini. Alafu hizo sheria hazizungumzi sawa na matakwa ya wananchi ambao wametuchagua hapa. Alafu baadaye kidogo unaona sheria hizo zinaanza kutupiga kule mashinani. Bwana Spika, mimi nasema haina haja kuandika sheria ambayo itasema kama mtu ako na nafasi zake na mwenzake amekuja ameweka mchango, hatuwezi kumsaidia. Kwa hivyo mimi Bwana Spika, huu mswada kama ni kuupitisha lazima ukue amended, ubadilishwe, upatiane watu nafasi. Na kama kuna pingamizi lolote Bwana Spika, kama kuna shida mahali ama turekebishe, irekebishwe. Lakini kusema ya kwamba ati senators, ati mawaziri, ati walimu, ati madio, ati madaktari ambao kwa sababu umeandikwa na ama wahandisi ama wafanyikazi wa serikali, ati kwa sababu umeandikwa na serikali huwezi kuja usimame kwa harambee usaidie wananchi wako. Bwana Spika, mimi sioni kama hilo ni wazo zuri, na ninaomba bunge letu la Senate tuangalie huu mswada. Jameni, tujadili vizuri, tuuelewe. Tusije tukapitisha sheria ambayo ukirudi nyumbani unaenda kutandikwa nayo. Kwa hayo mengi Bwana Spika, in principle mimi sikubali huu mswada. Nataka mswada ambao utatupatia nafasi, wale wanaoweza kutoa watoe, wapate baraka zao. Wale ambao hawako kwa nafasi, Mungu atakuja kuwasaidia, wataendelea nazo. Lakini kuzuia mtu, Bwana Spika, mimi sipo hapo. Asante kwa nafasi hii ya kutoa mawazo yangu. Thank you very much.
Senator Richard Onyonka.
Ndugu Spika, nimesikia ndugu yangu Mungatana akizungumza, nikajiuliza sijui yeye ameishi nchi gani. Kwa sababu ndugu Spika, sababu huu mswada umeletwa hapa si eti ni mswada ambao unamkataza mwananchi wa kawaida ama kiongozi yule ambaye ana hela ya kulipa ama asaidie mahali kuna ugumu atoe hiyo hela. Shida iliyoko huu mswada, haja yake ni kuhakikisha kuwa wale ambao ni viongozi tumekuwa tukiiba rasilimali za wananchi, halafu tunaenda mpaka kwa matanga ndio kwenda kuonyesha wale watu maskini kwa wewe unaweza kulipa shilingi 1200 kumzika mtu aliyefariki, lakini wakati ulikuwa kiongozi haukuamka kuzungumza vile atatibiwa kwa hospitali ambako hamna madawa. Sheria ambayo tunataka kubadilisha ni kutoa ufisadi kutoka kwa kusaidia watu maskini, kwa sababu vile tunavyosaidia watu maskini tuna pretend kuwa tunawasaidia, lakini hatusuluhishi yale mashida ama zile shida ambazo nchi yetu inazo. So ndugu zangu wale mko hapa, mnaweza kufanya amendment, nakubali na nyinyi, lakini wacha niwaambie hivi: kwa sababu sisi ndio tumeharibu uongozi wa nchi yetu, kwa sababu sisi ndio mafisadi wakubwa, kwa sababu sisi ndio tumapretenda wakubwa, barabara ni mbaya, hospitali ni mbaya, madawa hakuna hospitali, maji hayako nyumbani, alafu ukisikia mtu ana diarrhea unasema tumia hao jamaa, watu washakufa, tutamzika ki. Ningependa kuwauliza nyinyi viongozi hapa, huu mswada uendelee hivyo hivyo, tutoe ufisadi kutoka kwa kusaidia mtu maskini. ili ukitoa pesa kanisa ama ukitoa pesa kwa mchango, tumia Safaricom na useme hiyo pesa ulitoa wapi, ukaleta kunitolea wakati nimefariki, kwa sababu wakati ambako nilikuwa mgonjwa hakukuwa na madawa. Asante ndugu Speaker.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, taking over from where the Senator of Kisii has left, I want to remind colleagues that this is our baby. When we rose to respond to the disaster of the Gen Z, one of the things we resolved upon in this House, in that great debate that we had never seen before, was that we had to address the displeasure by the young people on how we spend all our time showing off opulence, choppers, vehicles that cost over 51 million shillings. And the youth, because they are better educated than what our generation was at their time, they are able to relate your income to what you contribute in Harambee. So we said, let us regulate this. The intention of this bill, and I want to urge colleagues, let us read it. The intention is not to abolish Harambees. The intention is to sanitize. The intention is to make it decent. The intention is to make sure that we don't hide in Harambees to practice corruption. How can you accept the fact that you are taking your ill-gotten money to a funeral of a mass accident like the one we had in Ekolomani at Ego River, Lukose? You take those millions, and yet the reasons why the accident took place is the bad state of the roads. If you had a dual carriage from Nairobi to Kakamega to Busia and Uganda, the accidents that take place on these roads would be cut by over 80%. So, Senator Mungatana, thank you very much for your passion, but the point is, don't give us money which you have stolen, which would have fixed the roads, and those bad roads have caused us to die. Don't bring us that money. Allow the police to come after you so that you can be brought to order.
What is your point of order, Senator Mungatana?
Did you Yes, Mr. Speaker, did you hear the senator from Kakamega, my very good honorable friend, say that they don't bring us the money that you have stolen? Mr. Speaker, is it a presumption that every person who actually, out of his good heart, or out of the problem that is there, and I'm speaking from about my county, Mr. Speaker, I don't know, Kakamega, maybe they are rich, Mr. Speaker. People are dying of hunger. If you get something and you want to help, is it a presumption, Mr. Speaker, that the people who are helping, the teachers, the doctors, the more prosperous farmers are thieves? Mr. Speaker, can Mr. Kalwale, Honorable Kalwale, my very good friend, please stop playing to the gallery and address the issues? I don't think that is a correct statement, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Mungatana, I don't think the Honorable Senator for Kakamega meant what you've just said. Indeed, if you remember during the debate on the state of the nation, none other than honorable senators were of the view, and that was after listening to the general public, that there could be dirty money that gets its way into the Harambees. And therefore, it's important to bring transparency in the Harambees. It's decent to bring some accountability in the way we do these Harambees. And out of that concern that the House had, and in fact, this House went to resolve certain actions to be taken. One of them is basically to legislate and bring sanity in the Harambee space. So yes, there's that general perception. And not everybody who contributes in a Harambee is a thief. But as you know, if I might use a Kiswahili saying, samaki moja kioza, bahari mzima imeoza. So this particular piece of legislation is to address that particular one thief and leave their 1,000 wonderful people. But at least that particular one person who we are not sure of how their sources of, these funds, the fund do not make its way into the hands of the public. That's why this law is proposed. But I do not think the Honorable Senator for Kakamega had an ill motive by saying that some of this money that would have otherwise fixed a road ended up in the wrong hands, and it is that money that is coming at the tail end to bury victims of that very bad road, which bad road came as a result of the money that had been maybe stolen. So it is that space that we are trying to clean up. There are good people who will bring their hard-earned money, and there are those questionable amounts that still find the way. So to clean up, to make sure that we have good money in this Harambee ecosystem, the proposed law is just to sanitize that space. Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't have put it better, and I truly want to thank you. This bill is not a joke. Mr. Speaker, there is still money meant for drugs in hospital, and thanks to that shortage, patients die and they come to bury us. Mr. Speaker, there is still money meant to fix our roads. Mr. Speaker, they go ahead and buy four-wheel drives that can avoid potholes and buy choppers, and courtesy of those bad roads, when we die, they come to show us. We don't want that money. Mr. Speaker, in Tana River, I have had the choice and pleasure for 6 years to practice medicine in the Coast Province. And I know what poverty has done, not just in Western, but in Coast. So, Mr. Speaker, there is still money meant to improve the productivity of the lands in Coast so that they allow the people of Tana River to come to them through Harambees begging for food. Mr. Speaker, through this law, we don't want that kind of money. And Mr. Speaker, this law has been very well thought through. When you read through, Mr. Speaker, it is not casual. Let me respond, for example, to the concerns in this bill of the Senator of Tana River. We have Part Roman 3, which speaks to fundraising appeals. And they say, Mr. Speaker, in Clause 8, that the provision of this part shall not apply to a private fundraising appeal where the solicitation is made from members of for beneficiaries of the nuclear family or relatives and does not extend to members of the public. Clearly, this bill is going to allow us to sit as a family in Marinya, a family in Idaho, and do our fundraising. What they are against is public fundraising. And the law has gone further, Mr. Speaker, in Clause 9, has created distinction between public and private fundraising. It is the public fundraising that we want to control. I therefore, Mr. Speaker, wish to appeal to colleagues. Let's go through this proposal with a tooth comb so that we can refine it for it to be better. Are you saying this thing is a joke? When you saw a few days ago, none other than the Catholic bishops of Kenya speak to this issue. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, in unprecedented action, Archbishop Anyolo, who for the information of this House, is a man born from Shinyalu, and he's the Archbishop here in Nairobi. Philip Anyolo has done the unthinkable. He has returned money to politicians. So when you say we are doing something that does not appeal to the public, knowing that Catholics control over 50% of the Christians in this country, knowing that the Catholics have permeated all our villages and they could possibly be the voice of the poor who we pretend to be assisting when actually thieves are using that opportunity to sanitize money that they have stolen from our coffers. We must address it so that on Sunday, when I go to church, when you go to church, when all our other politicians go, including the head of state, he can comfortably make his contribution without any worries as to the interpretation. And this law has gone further, Mr. Speaker. They have said in this law, in Clause 11, they have put exemptions. Exemptions are here. Senator for Narok, if you go to Clause 11, they tell you money or property collected by or under the authority of a recognized representative of a religious association is exempted. It means once the law is through, we can then go to Archbishop Anyolo and give him our contribution to help the church to be constructed. I would be the last person, Mr. Speaker, to fight the Harambee spirit, because if it had not been for the 100 shillings in 1976, which Mwirizali Halanganga gave me as a contribution to my Harambee, I would not have finished my education in Musingo High School. Mr. Speaker, Musingo High School, one of the top schools in this country, was started by the spirit of Harambee. Shibwe Hospital today, which I have created from a dispensary, that dispensary was started by Harambee. So Harambee is good, but unregulated, you leave it to where you see people using it to sanitize the money they steal from us. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by acknowledging that this is indeed a difficult decision to make, because somebody who will not take trouble to read this law, he will think you are against charitable activity. No. In fact, one of the charitable organizations that I belong to, Touch Africa, where I'm a director of the foundation, was started by the late Michael Kijana Wamalwa because he believed in touching people. We want to touch people, but touch them with honor and touch them not when we are taking advantage of them. Mr. Speaker, I support strongly and I propose that at the right time we'll come with proposals to amend so as to make this bill better. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Olekina.
Mr. Speaker, let me begin by saying that I have no beef with people coming together to be able to help one individual improve their status of living. Mr. Speaker, I grew up in a society where we encourage a lot of the Harambee movement, but I believe that the pace which we are taking now, Mr. Speaker, to be able to regulate fundraisings is completely ill-advised. And I say so, Mr. Speaker, because I've taken some time to read through this fundraising bill. And I do not support the proposals which are being made in this bill. Mr. Speaker, we are a society, a country, which now we should be working hard to ensure that every citizen has got access to free health care. We should be working so hard, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that every student, every young kid born from the Bundus of Narok or from the other Bundus of Lake Turkana are able to get access to quality and free education as well as healthcare. Mr. Speaker, what we are doing now by regulating this kind of fundraising is by making sure that we are condemning this generation into poverty. Mr. Speaker, I completely detest that approach. I've sat down there listening to the Chief Whip talking about when he went to school, that he could not have finished school without Harambee. That is very true to all of us. But are we going to stagnate and stay there for the rest of our generation? Or are we going to do things differently? Earlier on, in the morning session, Mr. Speaker, we had the Cabinet Secretary of Housing, Lands and Housing. And she made a statement here and said that Narok County, with 6 sub-counties, will be entitled to a minimum of 220 houses per sub-county. That makes it about 1,320 houses for Narok County. When I stood to inquire further on that, she said that that is just the beginning. Mr. Speaker, I want to invite my colleagues for us to discuss here is how do we make sure that if our funds are being deducted from our salaries, we can guarantee that those who have not been given an opportunity to get where we are, the state takes that responsibility. When you now require us to profile individuals who are going to be carrying out fundraising activities, Mr. Speaker, the only thing that I conclude is that we are content with being poor, and we are content with widening the gap between the rich and the poor. Mr. Speaker, you cannot say that you will maintain an annual register of persons licensed by it to conduct a public fundraising appeal under this act. You go further and you say that you are now going to have a cabinet secretary who is going to authorize. You go further and you say that in each and every county, Mr. Speaker, you're going to have a CC member who is going to keep a register. I think, Mr. Speaker, we are losing. We are completely losing our trajectory in terms of development in this country. If we were arguing, if the sponsor of this bill was saying, let us now regulate charitable organizations. Let us register charitable organizations that can be able to spell out their mission and goals. We regulate them and allow them to carry out fundraising. In America, where I spent almost 20 years of my life, we had non-profit organizations, we have charitable organizations, but now when it comes here and you're saying you want to be able to
profile individuals and keep a list of individuals. I wish we were talking about keeping a list of charitable organizations. I think we need to change, Mr. Speaker. We need to start saying, when did the rain start beating us to a point where now primary schools, we are paying them, when we had made progress, when the late president came into power, where kids could easily go to school for free. Right now, Mr. Speaker, if you ask any of these members who are seated here to show you their phones, there is a Harambee invitation for Harambee to pay for kids to go to school. There is a Harambee for a person to go to hospital. And then, Mr. Speaker, in this bill, it talks about, which I really detest completely. It says, this is an act of parliament to provide a framework for regulations in the conduct of public fundraising appeals to promote transparency and accountability in carrying out of fundraising appeals and foster great philanthropy. How do you foster great philanthropy when everybody in this country knows that the only people who can come up with money are politicians? Aren't you just encouraging corruption then? Aren't you encouraging an issue where you are elected into office because of how much you can be able to give instead of meritocracy? I think we need to focus on developing this nation. We need to come up with policies that will ensure that we narrow this gap between the rich and the poor, those who have and those who have none. We made progress by introducing a new constitution, where now we have counties. You know, even the way we make legislation, Mr. Speaker, has got to change now completely. It has got to change. I long for the time that we will be sitting here and saying, in Tana River County, the residents of that county have decided that every child in that county will go to school for free, and that the money that they are being taxed will be able to be directed there. But now, if we are even regulating fundraising, and then in this same law you say you are excluding, I like what my good friend Bonnie Halwale said, we are excluding family fundraising activities. You know? I mean, seriously. I want to beseech all of us that we move away from this kind of legislation. We are over-legislating. I want to beseech all of us that we sit down and say, how are we going to make sure that we develop policies that will ensure that in future, a granddaughter of the majority whip or majority leader will be able to go to school and not having to worry about harambes. You know? Yes. You know, this issue of majority leader, for us keep on saying harambe, 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 is really pushing us back. We were profiled as a less developed country. We went up to now a medium developing country, a developing country. We have now gone to a point where now we are saying there are those developed nations. And when we go to these international conferences, and I'm sure my good brother, the chair of PAC, will tell you that when they went to COP29, our presidents did not even go. So it was just a room full of individuals who have got dreams but cannot be able to implement them. They were just talking about, we want to give Africa $1.3 trillion just because we spent $3 trillion in promoting warfare among countries. It's a talk shop. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with the sponsor of this bill, my good brother, my good friend, the majority leader, to change, to amend everything and say, let us regulate charitable organizations. That is number one. I will support him 100% on that. Number two, let us ensure that we've registered these non-profits such that if they are supported by an entity outside the country,
Whatever is imported here is not taxed again at the airport. Because you've seen, I'm sure the majority leader has received so many phone calls from NGOs saying, these books were donated to us, but they are now asking us to pay taxes. So, to save this, let us not limit it down to individuals. Let us come up with the proper regulations of charitable organizations. Let us persuade each county to say, what is the biggest problem? Recently, Mr. Speaker, I saw a Gazette notice where the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Foreign Affairs has decided to give immunity to one charitable organization called the Melinda Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And in the reasoning of giving that immunity, there's one word that caught my attention. This is a charity organization that has been set up to fight poverty. And that is now where we are giving them immunity. But that immunity only extends to expatriates who come and work in this country. But Kenyans who would have been co-opted to work in that company will not be immune. Come on. Why are we creating these different classes? Why are we profiling people? So I want to support, and I plead with Majority Leader, because he's one young man who is very, very intelligent and has really managed to change a lot of things, that let us, during the Committee of the Whole, change the act or the proposed legislation. Let us strictly regulate charitable organizations. Once we regulate those charitable organizations, the role of counties can now come in and say, because we all know our counties. We all know the status of our counties. We are informed by Session Paper number 10 of 1965. We are informed by the current situations of our Division of Revenue Bill, our CARA, how money is divided. We are informed by the debate that we have on a daily basis of how we divide revenue, whether by the size of the land or by the number of people who are there. We're informed by the Kenya Bureau of Statistics that tells us about the poverty in our counties. Why can we then ensure that in each and every county, Mr. Speaker, charitable organizations that are set up to work there are helped, assisted, and they are registered based on the circumstances of each of that county? There'll be no interest of you supporting a charitable organization that is coming to Narok to be able to count wild animals. What for? But if you're telling me that you will go to West Pokot and ensure that you are funding a charitable organization that brings people together for cohesion, make sure that it supports education, I'll be among the first one to say, let's go for it. So, Mr. Speaker, to end, I would like to see this bill becomes law, but let us make it such that it doesn't profile people. Number two, such that it doesn't keep us stagnating. Let us now think like these developed nations that want to sponsor this charity organization. And you will know something, Mr. Speaker, as I wind up. A lot of these charity organizations will raise $1 billion. And they will say, we are going to fight poverty in Africa. And they will say, for Kenya, we'll give Kenya $200 million. I'm telling you, Mr. Speaker, and this is a fact, and you can go check. By the time that money lands to Kenya, 80% has gone into administration. Only 20% is what ends up fighting that poverty. So, Mr. Speaker, this is an area that I'm quite vast, and I want to support the majority leader in regulating charitable organizations. We want to make it easy for people to be able to improve their standard of living. If today I want to go to Senator Kipsang's home and support a local church there, I should not be regulated to do that, really. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chimera.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Hata mimi pia niweke kauli yangu kwa mswada huu Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, nimesikiza changizo za viongozi wenzangu kwa mswada huu Bwana Spika, na nimeona ni kama tunakingana kimawazo Bwana Spika. Kuna wale ambao wamelichukulia swala lote hili kimakosa na kwamba wakaona sababu kuu ambayo ni kwa nini sheria hii imefika katika bunge letu la Seneti hii siku ya leo Bwana Spika, ni kutokana na ule msukumo wa wale vijana wetu Gen Z ambao kwamba wao, na mimi naungana mkono na wao pia Bwana Spika, naunga mkono wao kwa sababu pia tuliona kweli hapo awali kwamba viongozi, baadhi ya watu katika nyadhifa mbalimbali katika uongozi katika nchi hii waliweza kuonekana kwamba wapo mstari wa mbele kufanya harambe ambazo ni za kutishia mno. Kutishia kwamba kile kiwango ambacho wanatoa katika harambe zile Bwana Spika kumradhi, kilikuwa kiwango cha juu zaidi. Na viongozi wengi ukiangalia mstakabala wao Spika, ukiangalia ule mshahara ambao tunapokea kama maseneta, kama wabunge, kama ma-MCAs, kama magavana na kama makatibu na mawaziri Bwana Spika, hailingani na kile kiwango ambacho wanatoa katika harambe hizi. Na ndiposa mori ama hasira ikaweza kuwajaa wale vijana wa Gen Z na wakasukuma kwamba lazima iwe sheria kwamba harambe hizi ziweze kudhibitiwa Bwana Spika. Lakini Spika, nikueleze kwamba naweza endelea. Nikueleze kwamba Bwana Spika kwamba hatua ile ya kutaka kuhakikisha kwamba kuna sheria ya kudhibiti harambe Spika, nafikiri wazungu husema ni knee jerk reaction, kwamba ni magoti juu naelezewa hapa nyuma, na haitoi suluhu ya tatizo lote hili Spika. Spika, leo hii mimi ni seneta maalum, ninawakilisha vijana na natokea kaunti ya Kwale Spika. Na Spika, kila kukicha Spika, simu yangu ya rununu, simu ya mke wangu ya rununu, simu ya PA, simu ya hata wazazi wangu Spika, hupata jumbe za kwamba kuna mchango mahali Spika, kwamba kuna mgonjwa anahitaji matibabu Spika, na mimi kama kiongozi ambaye nimeteuliwa Spika, sijapigiwa hata kura Spika, hata sijataka kusema kwamba nataka kuwania nyadhifa yoyote katika kaunti yangu ya Kwale Spika, lakini kwa sababu wananchi wa Kwale na wananchi wa Kenya kwa ujumla Spika wana tabu, wana shida na wanatamani kupata msaada kutoka kwa viongozi wao Spika, unapata jumbe zile za kualika katika harambe mbalimbali, aidha kuchangia karo Spika, aidha kuchangia ujenzi. Nikueleze tu mimi mwenyewe pale eneo bunge la Kinango, mahali panaitwa kwa Kadogo, jamii ya pale kwa Kadogo Spika imenifuata mara nyingi sana wakiomba msaada wa kutengeneza choo cha umma Spika. Choo cha umma ambacho ni jukumu la pengine serikali ya kaunti Spika, lakini serikali ya kaunti haiwezi fanya kila kitu Spika kwa sababu ya uhaba wa fedha na mipangilio Spika. Ikiwa wananchi wetu wanahitaji choo cha umma Spika cha shilingi tu 1000 takriban 70 ama 100,000, na wamemfuata kiongozi aweze kuongoza katika shughuli ya kufanya changizo, ya kufanya harambee, ili waweze kuwezeshwa kufanya mradi ule ambao utawisaidia jamii nzima kwa ujumla, sio kwa leo wala sio kesho wala sio mtondogoo Spika, lakini kwa siku nyingi zijazo Spika. Sioni makosa pale kiongozi akifanya mchango ule Spika. Vile vile Spika, nikinaya kwamba kuona sheria hii Spika inampatia